Hey everyone, Laurel here, Minnesota Zone 5A. Just wanting to do a little bit of tour because we have some nice fall color, and also show you a little bit more about how I go about garden cleanup, particularly the patio. Here in Minnesota, of course, we get a lot of snow. Our average, I think, at least where I live in St. Paul, is about 55 inches per year. And this patio has to be cleared of all the pots in order to pile up snow all winter. And also in our climate, pots are prone to breaking if you leave them out. If they're empty, not so much, but if you leave them out with soil in them, that constant moisture and the freeze-thaw cycle will continue expanding that soil and shrink, expand, and so pots can burst, even the frost-free ones, so unless they're really thick. But I don't want to take any chances because I have a lot invested in this, so anyway, I kind of go through. We had our first frost. Generally, I wait till a frost or a freeze. I'll clean out some things when they're looking kind of tired and scraggly. But our first frost date is usually beginning to mid-October, around the 5th or the 10th. This year, I think it was about the 18th when we got a frost for the first time and killed off some things. I showed that in my last video. But I just kind of work one by one. I tend to get out the big things, the bigger pots. Ones like this, I can't lift up onto the garage shelves, so those stay on the garage floor, and they keep the soil in them. I can take you in here real quick. You can kind of see my shelving where I have more of like the medium-sized pots. Oh, I wanted to show you the canna root too. Okay, I'll have to grab one of those. Actually, I'll show you right now, and then I'll show you how I take it out. I've got elephant ears. This is how I store everything. These go in the basement. So the elephant ear corms look like this. I leave them in here because the top has a ton of moisture in it. So I let them dry out. They will move to the basement. They just can't freeze. And then when I pull out the canna roots, this is what a canna rhizome looks like. And you can see about how well I clean them off. There's a lot of soil still left on there. I cut the roots off, but I'm not real particular about clearing everything out. I live in a climate where it's very dry in the winter, and in my basement, this will desiccate, and then I can cut away. You can see the living parts of the tuber in the spring when you go to pull them out. So I cut away all the dead stuff. The soil is also very dry, so it's easier to pull away at that point. I have shelves for my smaller pots here too as well. That's, yeah. Anyway, so I just find it's much easier to just let the whole thing dry out, pull away the dry soil, cut away the desiccated parts of the root, and plant the growth points in the spring. I just start them in little, like I have a bunch of gallon pots and any number of size pots from all my planting that I save. So that is kind of what I do, and I'll show you some of the tools that I use. These I found, so I showed this little screen thing. This is from Target. They come out with these in the spring. It's part of their like summer collection, and that seasonal area that they have. And it's meant to keep like bugs, protect your food from bugs, but it works great as I have several of them that I use in the garden. I have a blue one over here too. Like I'm using them now, and I'll pull them out in the spring also to keep the squirrels from digging in this beautiful fresh soil where they just want to store all their acorns. It works great for that, just protecting the bare soil. I'll also use them when I plant out seedlings, or like my dahlia starts in the spring. Sometimes it'll be June where I plant something that's still small, but the sun is too hot, and so it's stressing out. So they work as like a shade cloth for something small as well. So anyway, multi-uses for those. So you can see I kind of start by cutting away the dead pieces of the canna. I'll cut it right all the way down to the soil. And that can be composted. This particular pot, because it has a little bit of a lip here, and you can see this tuber has grown all the way out to the edge. So I can't just pull out this whole root ball. It is really firmly in that soil. So I take a big machete and I cut around the edges, and I'll even pull it out on the grass, tip it on its side onto a tarp if I need to get everything out. And here I do the same thing with elephant ears. So I'll kind of dig around the soil. This is what an elephant ear looks like. I even left the stems off of this one. But I'll cut this back. You can see how it is in the soil, like this intense root system. So I'll cut these away. You don't need to. I mean, they'll just dry up over the winter, but it just makes it for easier storing that way. So that's kind of what the elephant ears look like. And all I do, I pull everything out that's around it, and I just start digging with a trowel around the edges, and you can kind of tear and rip the roots out as you go until you can free it. Also, these big pots, I'll often put a tarp out on the grass and kind of tip them on their side to get it out. Even when I had an apartment, I would do that just on my balcony. I've cleared these two out. You can see I just leave the soil in there. I should cover that one at least. Otherwise, I have a bunch of 5-gallon buckets for those medium-sized pots like this one that go on the shelf. The soil is too heavy remaining in the pots, so I store the soil. I've got a whole bunch of 5-gallon buckets that I've collected over the years with covers, and so I can stack these up in the back of the shed. And then I save the large soil bags that I buy in the spring when I buy fresh soil. I save those because obviously they're heavy-duty bags meant for storing soil. And I'll put my used potting soil in there. I've been reusing my potting soil for well over a decade. It's not, as long as it doesn't have insect damage. This container had thrips, although I think I took care of them, but I'm not going to take any chances. I'm just going to throw this soil away. And then I had another container also with thrips, with calibrachoa. I'm just going to pull out that entire root ball and throw it away. I'm not going to compost the plants because I don't want any eggs or anything left over to be overwintered and then be a problem next year. Or if, say, there was disease like fungal disease or something where there could be spores in the soil, that is when I will also refrain from saving that particular pot full of soil, because I don't want to overwinter the issue and keep perpetuating it into the next year. So this is one that had a Canna tuber in it. You can even see like the growth points where if it kept growing over the summer, it would sprout here. So what I did is had a calibrachoa all the way around it. Oh, I probably can't see that. It's hard for me to see the screen when it's this sunny out. So those are the growth points coming up. So I'll cut everything back. Not the growth points. You want to try not to damage the root as much as possible. Sometimes it does pull apart naturally, and that's fine. But I clear all the other annuals that I had around it. And then I just get in there with my trowel. This is my favorite trowels for doing these kinds of jobs. This one is from Ames at Home Depot. They carry that brand. Or they used to, I guess. I suppose I haven't looked for a while. But I have found this. It's this shape that I found elsewhere as well. This is also really good for planting in the ground. But that can really dig in. It can kind of cut the roots. I also have, this is a Fisker's garden knife, where it has sort of a serrated end. That's good for kind of cutting around the edges, getting those roots out as well. Like that a lot. And then of course my pruners. I've got a couple Falco pruners that I like to use. So I'll just work at it. Eventually, usually I can, let's see if I can do this one hand. It is pretty heavy. You know, I can tip it out and you can see the root system on this. I also use this tray. I got this at Fleet Farm from the automotive department. I think it's meant for like oil changing or something. I don't know, for fixing cars, but nice and big and lightweight. It works really great for this kind of thing. So you can see how intense those roots are. And I'll just kind of rip them. I'll use my garden knife to cut chunks out. The rhizomes from Canna don't go super deep. The roots go deep, but the rhizomes are maybe about half of this, and then the rest is just roots. And it's the rhizome that you want to save. The roots are just going to die off. They'll sprout new roots when you plant the rhizome next year. So I'll just kind of cut and rip at it until I get everything free. And then I dump the soil in a bucket, and the Canna rhizome, as you saw, goes in a cardboard box. I leave it open to let the whole thing dry out a little bit before I put it in storage because I don't want it to form mold, particularly the stems, because these have a lot of moisture in their leaves and their stems. So I'll let that kind of dry out and shrivel up. And that's, let me know if you have questions, comments, but that's pretty much how I store my any kind of root. I'm going to try that with geraniums, although I read that you don't have to cut back anything. You can just read the soil and store them upside down in a cardboard box. So that is going to be my test on the ones that are in the landscape that the ones in small pots I just keep as house plants. That worked for me well last year. But yeah, that's what I'm going to try. Otherwise, the other things that I overwinter are things that do well as house plants. So thank you to a viewer who commented, said that Meizu overwinters really well. So I have several of those. I did manage to pull one out of my pot too, and then these were clearance ones that I bought late in the season. I've overwintered the Cerveza and Lime Plectranthus multiple times. I buy it on clearance in the fall. I just up-potted it into a little bit bigger pot. Same with that one. Those grow so fast that I don't save them from year to year. Well, I suppose if I did, if I had it for a whole season, it would take up, I mean, it would quickly overgrow this pot, that gallon pot, in one summer. So if I up pot it and I have space for a large pot, that has worked for me too. I'm going to attempt to overwinter this verbena. I don't have much hope, but you know, just figure I'll try stuff out. They were only a couple bucks on clearance the end of the season. So, but yeah, the garden cleanup has begun. Normally we have a really short time in between our first frost and when things just freeze. I have found that if things freeze overnight, but then they don't get out of the 40s during the day, the soil just doesn't unfreeze and it's impossible to clear everything out. So most years it's sort of a mad dash to get things cleaned out. Look at this cabbage. It's this ornamental cabbage I start from seed. Gets these super long stem. I mean, the color is beautiful, but man, that thing is huge. Sorry for my shadow. When I filmed this yesterday, it was slightly overcast. So it was much better lighting to do this in. But yeah, those huge pots, I clear out the plants as much as I can. And I'll kind of loosen up the soil. I'll dig the roots out and refresh, put the soil back in. Every year, you know, your saved soil, you just have to recharge it. That's the trick for reusing potting soil. It's in North America, most potting soil is made primarily from peat moss. It's very difficult to find potting soil that's not primarily peat moss, and very expensive. I have not found any in garden centers. Locally, I think you probably would have to special order it for the most part. Maybe some garden center somewhere has, but it costs a fortune too. So anyway, peat moss on its own is fairly inert. It doesn't have a whole lot of nutritional value to it at all, not a lot of nutrients for plants. So when they bag it up and turn it into potting soil, they're adding compost and fertilizers and all those good things that they're adding the nutrients that the plants need. And then of course, when we plant, we add fertilizers as well. So, excuse me, as long as you're recharging the soil and adding those nutrients back in, I add usually a Spoma garden tone or plant tone, whatever I can find in a big bag is the cheapest option for the best quality that I can find. And then I use worm castings and compost. And I always, because, you know, it's not some of the soil sticks to the roots, or it also, not deteriorates, not disintegrates, but decomposes over time, slowly. Peat moss is very slow to decompose, but, you know, every year you have less soil than you started with a little bit for various reasons. So I'm also refreshing with fresh soil or compost. I'll use the old soil and top it off with either fresh potting soil or new compost. So that's how I recharge. And I've been doing that for years and years and years and not had an issue with it yet. So there you go. That's my secret. Now we can look at some fall color here. This 9 bark. This is the Tiny Wine 9 bark. Beautiful, deep wine color with sort of red highlights in it for fall. Summer color is like deep kind of reddish green. But man, it's beautiful in the fall as well. These hostas got a little fried in the frost, and normally they turn kind of gold color, but not so much this year. Alyssum looking beautiful. That self-seeds itself over here every year. Lamb's ear, I do always have to cut it back. You can see it's encroaching on the lady's mantle here. So I'll just kind of go around the edges and dig up chunks, and usually I can stick them in one of my many extra pots and just bring them to work and give them away. My friends have taken them as well. This dogwood also, you can see the leaves are kind of crispy. This gets really beautiful, kind of reddish pink leaf color in the fall. But this year, the frost kind of made some of the leaves a little bit crispy. And then the Kinsley's Ghost honeysuckle gets this really pretty, I have room to walk through here, sorry. Really pretty golden color in the leaves. These, because of the aphids, I am going to rake up all the leaves I can get once they all drop. Hopefully that will keep the eggs from harboring overwintering and hatching and crawling right back up to the honeysuckle in the spring. It was much, much less of an infestation this year, though, so I'm hoping maybe next year will be good. This heuchera is just so pretty. I wish I knew what kind it was, although I remember searching for it the next year and could not find it anywhere, which is probably why I didn't bother to save the tag. But I love the sort of bisque color of the Solomon seal terns. These two GM are semi-evergreen, so they won't die back completely. I just come and cut out all the dead in the spring. This planter still needs to get cleaned out. I think the skeleton of this Plectranthus looks kind of cool at this point, though. I'm super pleased that I got all these blooms on this salvia that didn't even bloom for me last year. Kind of a reddish, pinkish red toned blooms. This is the Rockin' Golden Delicious salvia. It says on the tag that it may not bloom depending on your climate because it blooms very, very late. These didn't come out till mid-October. And I planted this May or June. I usually plant from Memorial Day into early June-ish. Don't believe the tag. If you buy this, I had it in a fairly good-sized pot last year, and it quickly outgrew it, so I had to plant it in the landscape. The tag says it gets like 2 feet tall and wide, and this is, this tall bloom back here, I'm 5'10", and this is like up to my eyebrows, so pretty tall. But that's really fun to see those blooms, and they didn't get killed off in the frost. That's what happened last year. It was about to bloom, and then we got a frost. Bobo hydrangeas still have some pink color on them as they're turning brown. I do like hydrangea leaves because they turn kind of that yellow gold color for fall, so they really have just long season interest. Reason why I have so many of them. There's more Solomon seal, that beautiful gold. Hosta's kind of turning gold over here too. This basket looks real scraggly, but I do like this. Love the texture of this lotus vine. I think it's called Amazon Sunset. And of course the clematis. The spent blooms look so pretty. Those like fuzzy looking seed heads. And the elderberry did turn its gold color, but it dropped its leaves pretty quickly. Hopefully that comes back and is full next year because it's acting kind of weird this year. But these scrubby trees are really pretty gold over here too. I did dig up the canna and the elephant ears that were in the ground over there. Lungwort, this is the Trevi Fountain Pulmonaria / lungwort over here. That is a semi-evergreen. Stays pretty much green all winter. Of course, most years it's buried by snow. This one is humongous, though. This is like 3 feet across. I should probably think about dividing it at some point, but I guess, you don't really have to worry about it unless they're looking unhealthy. But it did produce at least one seedling. I think there was another one over here too, so excited about that. Free plants. Everybody loves free plants. You can kind of, my mountain of mulch, clearance mulch, is blocking the glory of this grass. But this is the Proven Winters. That one, okay, Cheyenne Sky. I'm pretty sure I get that mixed up because I also have Shenandoah, which is not Proven Winters. But this trio here is Cheyenne Sky, and those are new, fairly new. I just planted them last year, so they're still small, but they'll get nice and tall. My little native corner that I'm trying to build over here. Rudbeckia did great in the frost. These are not hardy to my zone. I started them from seed, but they are frost hardy. You can see the things that got killed off. The annuals that I had over here. And then down here, Virginia is also something that has really nice fall color. It gets those bright red leaves. And that's semi-evergreen in winter as well. They do kind of turn brown eventually, and in the spring I usually cut most of the leaves away. Same thing with the lungwort. After it blooms, I cut them all the way back. Nice fall color in the Conocloa. I think this is a Conocloa macra, or maybe green or something is what it was called. It has those decorative seed heads late summer, but then it kind of turns that gold with some hints of red in it. The viburnum now are past their kind of most glorious red color, but most viburnum have beautiful fall color. These two are the Bailey's, what is it? Bailey's Compact Cranberry Viburnum. I got them both on clearance a number of years ago for like $6 a piece. These are ageratum that were not frost or not hardy, but I do have one little bloom on a section that didn't get completely killed by frost. But I have a Stokes aster, which is a perennial that I'm going to plant in here. Ajuga, this is Ajuga, is semi-evergreen, mostly evergreen, as long as we get snow. Last year, I think a lot more of it died back because we didn't have snow cover. And then barberry tend to have really nice fall color too. I have 3 of them. They're not golden rocket, but they're something similar. They were most of the shrubs in this section were clearance when I planted them, including the dogwood had beautiful color. This one is strawberry daiquiri. Now it's just the beautiful red stems sticking up in the winter. So I'll have that winter interest. I have the North Pole Arbovita there, kind of behind that North Wind's grass. Beautiful fall color on the grass. And then I did plant another Arbovita, the De Groot's Spire. I am Groot Arbovita back here. So I'll have a little bit of more winter interest. Can't believe how fast this North Pole Arbovita is growing, though. I may plant another one of those because it's really doing nicely. A few annuals still looking good. Snapdragons are super hardy. Super frost hardy. The Stiacia has done well. The Nemesia is now kind of going over, done with its blooms, cycling out. But man, I've said before, I'm going to seek that out and plant more of that next year because that did so well. And we've been in drought for 2 months now. So finally got about a 1/4 inch of rain on Thursday, I think, a few days ago. But that's about all we've had in October. And in September, we measured less than 1/10 of an inch, which is unbelievably dry for us. Love the allium. They are just year-round interest. And then even in the spring, when they sprout, it's like this beautiful, like grassy, tidy clumps coming up. When they bloom, they're beautiful. Their seed heads have so much texture and interest. I say this is Millennium, this variety. Really strong stems that stay up above the snow in the winter. And then look at those beautiful gold colors in the leaves and the stems too in the fall. This is year-round interest. Every season, even winter, when you leave the seed heads up. I have not found this. It self-seeds a little bit, but not invasively. And I don't know how viable those seedlings are in this variety because I don't sit here and weed the onion seedlings or the allium seedlings, and I don't have any coming up. So Drops of Jupiter, also multi-season interest with that chartreuse foliage. The spent blooms have nice texture. Very hardy. I leave up the echinacea seed heads for the birds. And we've got the firelight hydrangeas back there, again with their golden leaves. This garden, going over now. I just harvested some carrots. I'm making a slow cooker pot roast. But I'll be planting my garlic in here, but you can see the soil sunk down quite a bit. We just installed this. My friends came and helped me in the spring. And I did the Hugo culture with the logs, and then I had cuttings from my perennials, and we topped that with the soil. So I'll have to buy a bunch of soil and top that off. I also just have compost that I can use. This sage leaf willow has nice fall color too. Glad we had a nice rainy summer. That really enjoyed it. And then the limelight hydrangea there, just sort of with the backdrop of this mulberry tree. I don't like the mulberry tree because it seeds everywhere. I mean, otherwise I don't mind it, but The roots are really intense too. There was one growing in between mine and my neighbor's house, and the first summer we were here, he and a buddy cut it down. I'm sure it had just seeded itself. And man, that was a job getting those roots out of there. But that was the first garden I planted in the back here. Because after that mulberry came down. Viburnum, here's another viburnum. This is either all that glitters or all that glows. Beautiful gloss. I love the glossiness of the leaves on this. And then it gets, this year it got the blueberries. I was so excited about that. You can see kind of the red starting in the tips of the leaves here. This one I think is more sheltered. Anything that's more sheltered when you get a frost or a freeze, underneath a tree, that's insulating. Perennials that are like underneath a shrub like this are more insulated. Even last year this was pushed back a little bit, but I had annuals planted around here, a patch of the same thing, and the begonias, and the two that were just kind of under the lip of this a little bit survived and the other didn't. So yeah, and these are Bidens. I forget which is which. I think I planted 2 of the Goldilocks rocks from Proven Winners. Then there was another one that was very similar that was not Proven Winners. Still blooming over here. I think I'm going to dig up these 2 geranium too. Hopefully I get a chance to do that and test out my overwintering. I think I mentioned this in my last video, but I do cut back. This is Bergarten sage here. And then I have a couple different types of rosemary. Rosemary freezes really well, so I cut it and just stick the whole branches in big freezer bags. Then I can use it all winter. The sage I tend to use fresh. I'll dry a little bit, but I don't use a whole lot of sage. It's such a fall flavor for me. So I'll do like a squash, like a pasta with butternut squash and like chicken sausage and sage and butter. That's one of my favorite fall things to cook. May try overwintering these geranium, although they did have tobacco budworms, which are not, I learned from the University of Minnesota Extension website, they're not native to the US, but they also can't survive our winter. So whatever larva, the adults are moths, of course, whatever's left over dies in wintertime. And then they hatch further south where they do survive. And then the caterpillars blow up on wind currents, and maybe the adult moths too, I'm not sure, but they actually blow up on wind currents coming from the south. And that's how they end up here. And because I did treat this with pyrethrin? I forget, whatever kills them. It seemed to take care of the problem, but I worry that if I do overwinter these, I may be harboring eggs instead of leaving them out here and letting the eggs just die in the winter. So undecided as of yet. Still some color over here. Alyssum is super frost hardy. So the marigolds, not so much. I mean, they still have some life in them. But these bags just stay out here all winter. I don't often clean these out unless there's some disease issue I want to take care of in the fall. They're much easier to clean out. Things like this, if you leave them out. These roots are really full, big root systems right now. But after they sit out all winter with all the moisture, the freeze thaw, the roots deteriorating. Why can't I remember? I always want to say disintegrating. Decomposing. It's way easier to pull them out in the spring. So don't worry about cleaning those out if you don't want to, because it'll be much easier to do it in the spring, months later when the roots have broken down. This alyssum I really, really liked. And these I got on clearance late in the season. I think it was maybe late July or August. Lobularia Purple Stream. That's a Danziger brand. Danziger makes some nice annuals. I'm going to be looking for that next year because that did really well. Would like to also save this Americana Coral Geranium. I love that color. I'm going to overwinter one in a pot too. Superbena or Alverbena, very frost hardy. This one wasn't bothered one bit by the frost. And then Calibrachoa too. None of them suffered any damage at all from the frost. This little patch is still looking nice. It was up against the garage, which provides shelter, and then there's the eave as well, kind of hanging over. So you've got snapdragon, salvia, marigolds. all in here. This one is the Potomac Red, really pretty. It's more of like a deep magenta color. Strawberry Blonde Marigold over here. You can even see like these marigolds got hit harder with frost, that were sticking out more, versus these that were kind of insulated a little bit by both the garage, the eave, and then the compost bin over here. So like this plant still looks pretty healthy, whereas these, they're not dead, but they definitely got hit by frost. And I can't believe there's still grasshoppers too. It's just been so warm. I will dig up the dahlia tubers over here. I'm glad they had a chance to bloom a little bit because I can tell what they are. So that one's fairway spur. They got, you can see the frost deformed the bud. I had this ball dahlia. I don't know what this one was because I didn't buy, this was a small white ball dahlia, but here's another fairway spur. That was my favorite one last year. Cosmo's pretty much toasted. The aster is pretty much done blooming. A little bit of color left. That'll stay green too, so that's some interest in there. You can see how huge that thing gets though. And again, I don't know what variety it was. It was on clearance, unlabeled. I have a feeling it was Woods Blue Aster, which says like 18 to 24 inches tall and wide, and that sucker's like 3.5 feet wide. So if plants are happy, they're always going to get bigger than what the tag says. There's the Shenandoah switchgrass, panicum. Beautiful fall color and texture back there next to the little lime hydrangea. Love the Anna's Magic Ball Arbovita. That really put on quite a bit of growth this year. And these stay pretty petite. They stay in that shape. You don't have to prune them. Oh, there's a spider that I upset. But they only get about 2 feet tall and wide. And this Noblesse Yarrow, you can see how it just keeps blooming until it freezes, like freezes. It's going to keep putting out white blooms. I stopped deadheading a while ago, and it's not blooming prolifically like it does midsummer, but this thing just keeps going. It does die back when it freezes though, so I just leave it up. And then I do most of my cleanup in the spring. And this drift rose did so great this year. I'm sure it was also our very rainy summer, but I'm really enjoying that I still have some blooms and color back here. Amsonia, this one is not Storm Cloud, that's the Proven Winners. This one is Blue Star, non-Proven Winners. But you can kind of see that like gold color in the leaves. Amsonia is known for both its true blue flowers in the early summer and then its beautiful gold color in the fall. I also leave up the seed heads of the dwarf goldenrod here. Nice texture sticking up from the snow in the winter. I do have it. You can see the plant supports down there that I do have up. Otherwise it splits open. Got some echinacea. This salvia is not hardy, so that'll die back. But again, I don't worry about cutting this stuff back. I have another newly planted Anna's Magic Ball there, along with the juniper that I planted earlier this summer. So that'll be winter interest. Ideally, this one will be covered by snow, as usually we get that much snow. And that keeps everything nice and healthy and sheltered from the sub-zero temperatures, and it keeps it protected also from rabbits and other varmint that eat it. We've got the Limelight Prime Hydrangea, mostly lost all its leaves now, but still pretty color on the blooms. These blooms don't last all winter. They're pretty delicate, so once we get some heavy snowfalls, they all kind of break off, but I like to leave them up and enjoy them in the fall. And the first few snowfalls, they're pretty too. Of course, I always talk about the peach tea heucherella, how bulletproof those are. You can see a little bit of color left on this aronia. This is the low-scape mound hedger, chokeberry. Aronia is native to North America. You can see it sets its buds. It blooms on old wood, meaning it's setting blooms this year for next year. And that's what blooming on old wood means. It sets its blooms the year before. So you want to be careful, plants like that, you want to be careful when you prune, because if you prune it in the spring, you'll be cutting off all the blooms. This one I will be pruning in the spring though, because it's time to start shaping it up a little bit. It was a clearance plant, which is why it's kind of wonky. And then this salvia is not hardy, but this is the Rock and Play in the blue salvia. I have 2 of them there. Beautiful blooms. Love this. Hoping I can still find it next year. That one's kind of stuck. So yeah, just really nice color. Really nice colors here. Loving that. And I think I'll run up to the front with you as well. You can see where this is where I cut the other, or dug up the other dahlias. There is this fairway spur here left that I'll dig up soon, but I was just enjoying the bloom out here, and it's not worth cutting because it got deformed by the frost. So yeah. All right. Up we go. Slowly work at these pots. These are all larger pots, so I do have to dig out the canna lily. I do not have to remove all of the soil from these. So it always happens every year where I just run out of time. There's only so much time, so much energy to do this stuff. So what I can do, the ones that I can't clear out the plants, I just cut everything back and store it to be cleared out in the spring. So I try to get as much done as I can, though, because that's a lot of work to have in the spring as well. Something lantana, just be warned, it has really intense root system. So it takes quite a bit to clear out lantana. It is hardy in a lot of areas, though. This Dusty Miller is like freeze tolerant. I store this on the porch where it freezes every winter. And then the mums over here, that beautiful burgundy one, those are, they're probably hardy if I planted them in the ground, even though they weren't labeled as such. But I just overwinter them on the porch. They do go dormant, so I cut them back, and then they resprout in the spring. All right, here we go up to the front. Gonna look at a little bit of color. It's gonna be hard to see the smoke bush tree color, though, because of the angle. The sun's kind of shining right through it. Maybe from this side we can see it gets beautiful, sort of deep red leaves. This one always seems to be the last one to lose its leaves. We're always trying to rake it up right before we're about to get our first snowfall. And it's like it turns red, and then maybe about a week later, it'll just like drop all the leaves, just boom. Suddenly they're all down, like all at once. I'll go leave for work and it'll be full of leaves, and I'll come home and there'll be no more leaves on it. And these begonia planters still just look beautiful. Look at this Lismachia blooming away. This one, I forget the name of it. It is not the Overwinters one, but it's similar to it. And these were sheltered by the smoke bush overhanging them, which is why they did not get killed off in the frost. So, and I'm enjoying them. These I just cut back the dead parts, and I just leave these in here for winter. No point pulling them out. But yeah, the little quickfire hydrangeas, beautiful color. Hosta's starting to turn gold. And then I have a hardy mum in here, this pink one. I am going to get rid of this grass because I don't like the texture up here. It's a cool looking grass. I like those sort of like drapey ones. It doesn't have room to do its thing here, so I don't know if I'll move it or give it away. It was on clearance though for $3 several years ago. I did buy some echinacea, some yellow echinacea that I'm going to plant instead. And I think my grassy texture, I'm going to stick with the Carex. I did get one more of these on clearance. And then I have this Siberian iris over here too. So that's kind of that grassy texture. These rudbeckia are also annuals, which is why they look crummy. And then I cleared out the pot of petunias that I had and just plunked one of my mum containers that overwinter up here. And then there was salvia planted. You can see how beautiful gold. This is the String Theory Amsonia from this is the Proven Winners one. And this will get quite a bit bigger. I just planted it last summer. But everything around it right now, except for that heuchera over there, are annuals. So it'll have plenty of space to spread out. But I love that ferny texture. And man, the foliage on that is just so beautiful. Love that color. And this is why I love foliage color, because you get all season interest. These heuchera just looking amazing. This one is caramel. I can never remember the name of these two, but I really need to. It's not plum pudding. Gosh, I can't remember. But I need to find more of those because those are astoundingly enormous as well. And then this is the Blue Shadow Fothergilla, beautiful sort of bluish green color. These are understory shrubs, so they like to be planted in part shade or dappled shade. They kind of tend to grow in their native habitat in underneath trees or on the edges of forests where they get dappled shade coming through the leaves. Beautiful. Fothergilla are all kind of known for their beautiful fall color. So enjoying that. Those leaves have hung on for quite a while. And then this is the limoncello barberry. You can see some of that. This one gets really bright orange and red tones to it. And it's kind of a later one to put out all of its color as well. You can see it kind of starting there with those bright, bright hues. And I think that's kind of it. This is empty now. This is why I kind of like planting. These are red acre. It's like an edible purple cabbage, just your run-of-the-mill. But I like how it looks. And then kind of in the fall, I have something back here after all the balsam dies off. So it doesn't get enough sun or water to really form edible heads of cabbage, but I just like how it looks. Though I will do more salvia. These are Victoria Blue salvia that I plunked in here late season for some color. I think I'm going to do like a whole patch of these here. I think I'm going to get rid of the hollyhocks because those just get rust so bad. So I'm looking forward to that next year. Plunked one in here amongst the foxgloves, which seed themselves everywhere. Fine by me. You can see I have two. And this one was unlabeled in the garden center, was the original plant. It might be Camelot Purple, I'm not sure. Because it does bloom in the first year. And then I have Dalmatian Peach over here, which I started from seed. And then this, again, beautiful grass. This is Calamagrostis overdam. It has those variegated leaves as well. And then just beautiful seed heads. Grasses really are at their peak in the fall. If you want serious fall interest, plant a lot of grasses. And then the other side of the dogwood. So I will leave you with that. Hope you are enjoying your fall and having some nice weather. Absolutely perfect today, high 60s. A little bit breezy, but just comfortable for working. So thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Please subscribe.